So the WBC have now come out, and it's provisional. They've provisionally done this, but they provisionally suspended Dillian Whyte and stripped him of his WBC interim champion status. Okay. Now, this obviously, as we all know, is in the wake of last week when it was alleged that Dillian Whyte had tested positive for a performance enhancer, of which I believe there was two parts of it which were in it. Now, we all know how that kind of went. UCAD allowed, well, actually, UCAD were the people who caught Dillian Whyte, allegedly. But WBC, as we all know, they work in conjunction with VADA for the clean boxing program. Now, Dillian Whyte, as far as I'm aware, he was fine. He passed all his VADA tests. It was UCAD. And as we know, the British Board of Boxing Control still allowed him to fight. And obviously, they never informed Oscar Rivas. And it's very interesting, actually, because I saw a tweet from Michael Benson, and he was kind of alluding to this, and he said, everyone like Eddie Hearn now jumping to defend Dillian Whyte, jumping to say X, Y, and Z, and you know what. But he said, imagine it was the other way around. Imagine that fight had taken place in Colombia, and that Dillian Whyte had lost the close to UD, and that Team Rivas had, had some issues with their, drug testing company, but Team Whyte were never told. Could you imagine what Eddie Hearn would be saying? He'd be up in arms, saying this, saying that. So I thought that was quite interesting, but I'm going to read you a little statement that I have here, and it says as follows. An A sample UCAD collected from Mr. Whyte in relation to his bout against Oscar Rivas yielded an adverse finding. In light of the adverse finding and pending the outcome of the WBC's own investigation, an auditory process, the WBC is provisionally suspending the WBC's recognition of Dillian Whyte as its interim heavyweight champion and mandatory challenger of the division. The WBC has also notified Mr. Whyte and his team of the WBC suspension, and it will afford Mr. Whyte the opportunity to present its position to the WBC at the investigative hearing, which will take place at a place and time to be announced in the near future. Throughout its investigation and hearing, the WBC will afford Dillian Whyte, Mr. Whyte, and his team the opportunity to present any available information and materials and any exploratory evidence that they might deem appropriate. Okay, that was hard to read because it was a tweet, but the page wouldn't stay where it was, and it was very small to read, so I was having to scroll down and scroll across a lot. So that's kind of what the WBC have said on this. So, it's an interesting turn of events. Obviously, in the last week, we'd heard Dillian Whyte, talk about various fighters, failing PED tests, and I still wonder has Tony Bellew come out and said anything, because I'm actually going to check again, because I done that video last week where I was discussing Dillian Whyte's failed PED test, and I said, look how quiet Sky are. You're not hearing really anything from Sky, where normally if that was a Bob Arum fighter, an Al Heyman fighter, an Oscar De La Hoya fighter, you'd hear them. But no, Tony Bellew hasn't even released a tweet yet, and he's normally one of the most vocal guys out there when it comes to, fighters failing drugs tests, so he's not even saying anything. That, to me, that, I'm not going to say it's a smoking gun or anything like that, but it does kind of beg the question that when you see all these Sky guys up in arms about this, that and the other, when you see someone like Tony Bellew be so vocal about certain things, but then when it comes to a fighter who is, we'll say, one of Sky's main kind of cash tickets now, and one of the top 3 kind of heavyweights in terms of popularity in Britain, when you see that, you notice that Sky and Tony Bellew, they're a lot more quiet than they were before, as opposed to Jarrell Miller, we'll say, when he failed, or Alexander Povetkin. So, and at the time, obviously, Povetkin wasn't working with Eddie Hearn. So, it's an interesting turn of events. Let me know what you think down below. Hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe if you're new, and as always, I will talk to you after.